Right. Our objective for today is to graph using the intercepts. Most of you are familiar with the y-intercept. The definition of the x-intercept and the y-intercept are given in your note-taking guide. The y-intercept, I know that you used last year in graphing. It's the y-coordinate of a point where a graph crosses the y-axis. The x-intercept may be a new concept to you. However, it is very simple to use. It's the x-coordinate of a point where a graph crosses the x-axis. So we're going to start with example 1, finding the intercepts of the graph of an equation. So to find the x-intercept of an equation, what we need to do is substitute a 0 in for the variable y. If you look at this equation is in standard form. Later on in the chapter, and in chapter 5, we'll be talking a lot more about standard form. But in example 1, the equation is in standard form. It's 8x minus 2y equals 32. So to find the x-intercept, we're going to substitute a 0 in for x. We're going to substitute a 0 in for y and solve for x. And when we do that, we are left with 8x equals 32. And then we solve for x by dividing both sides by 8. Sorry about that. 32 over 8 equals 4. All right. Now we're going to take that same equation and we're going to find the y-intercept. To find the y-intercept, we substitute a 0 in for x, and we're going to solve for y. So we substitute a 0 in for x, which gives us negative 2y equals 32. Solving for y, we're dividing both sides by 32. And y equals negative 16. So our x-intercept we found above is 4. What that means is when the value of y is 0, our value for x is 4. So the x-intercept would have a coordinate of 4, 0. The y-intercept is negative 16. Okay? That means the y-intercept has a coordinate, or an ordered pair, of 0, negative 16. If you think about a coordinate plane, I'm going to draw a little tiny coordinate plane right here. Okay? And 4, 0 is, I would say, right about there. That is our x-intercept. Notice x-intercept, it lies on the x-axis. Our y-intercept is 0, negative 16. Our y-intercept lies on the y-axis. So if you are ever plotting the x and y-intercepts and they're not lying on either the x-axis or the y-axis, you did something wrong. All right, so let's move on to the checkpoint. It's finding the x and y-intercepts of the graph of the equation. So remember, look back into your notes to find the x-intercept, substitute a 0 in for y. And to find the y-intercept, we're going to substitute a 0 in for x. So please pause the video and restart it when you're done. Please pause it now. Okay, going back. So to find the x-intercept, I am going to substitute a 0 in for y. I'm left with 2x equals 18. X equals 9. So my x-intercept is 9. To find the y-intercept, I substitute a 0 in for x. I'm left with 3y equals 18, and my y-intercept is equal to 6. So again, I am going to show you just how that would look on a graph. I'm going to make a tiny little coordinate plane up top. My x-intercept is 9, 0. So I'm going to place that about here. Okay, right there is my y-intercept, and my x-intercept is 0, 6. I'm going to place that about here. And then a line would go through those 2 points. I'm not going to show the work for number 2. If you did not get number 2 right, you want to stop and take a look at where your mistake is. But for number 2, the x-intercept is -3, and the y-intercept is -9. So for example 2, we're going to use the intercepts to graph, which is kind of what I did up above. I was just getting ahead of myself. But using the, if possible, if you can use the intercepts to graph, it's a really nice way to graph. So it says graph 3.5x plus 2y equals 14. Label the points where the line crosses the axis. So the first thing we're going to do is find the intercepts. Again, my equation is in standard form. The first intercept I'm going to find is my x-intercept. We find the x-intercept by substituting a 0 in for y. Right, off to the side, I am going to write down, I'm left with 3.5x equals 14. Divide both sides by 3.5. You can use a calculator, you can pause it. Right, to get the answer, if you need to pause it, go ahead. The answer is x equals 4. So my x-intercept is 4. When I'm finding my y-intercept, I am substituting a 0 in for x. I'm left with 2y equals 14. I'm going to solve for y. And y is equal to 7. So my y-intercept is 7. Down below, we're going to graph it. My x-intercept is 4. So therefore, my x-intercept has to be on the x-axis. My ordered pair is 4, 0. I'm going to plot that on the graph below. 4, 0, and label it x-intercept. My y-intercept is 7. So I'm going to plot the point 0, 7. And label that the y-intercept. And then I'm going to connect the points using a ruler and a straight line, drawing a line through them. So you can use the intercepts to graph a line. You learned a different method in the previous lesson, and now we're using the intercepts. All right. And you can go ahead and do the check on your own if you'd like. Moving on to example 3. It says identify the x and y intercept of the graph. The first thing you're going to do, please write this down, is put your finger on the line. Okay, so you're going to put your finger anywhere on this line. And you're going to follow the line to the x-axis. So my finger's on the line. I am following my finger until it hits the x-axis. But at the point that it hits the x-axis, this is your x-intercept. You're going to continue to follow the line to the y-axis. So I'm going to take my finger and I'm going to continue the line until I hit the y-axis, and I'm going to stop. The point on that line that hits the y-axis is the y-intercept. Okay. So in this case, if I'm following the line to the x-axis, the x-intercept is -2. If I continue the line, following the line until I hit the y-axis, I'm going to find the y-intercept, which is +2. Okay? All right, for checkpoint 3 and 4, pause the video, please. And in number 3, graph the line and label the points where the line crosses the axis. And in number 4, you're going to identify the x and y axis of the graph. So please pause the video now. All right. 2x minus 7y equals 14. I'm going to find my x-intercept first by substituting a 0 in for y. And my x-intercept is x equals 7. I'm going to plot that on the x-axis, and label that the x-intercept. To find the y-intercept, I'm going to substitute a 0 in for x and solve. 7y equals 14. Y equals -2. So my y-intercept is -2. I'm going to label that. You don't always have to label, I'm just labeling it to show you. And then I'm going to take my ruler and draw a line through those 2 points. And in the last example, I'm taking my finger, I'm running it on the line until I hit the x-axis to find my x-intercept, which is 1. And I'm going to continue up that line to find the y-intercept, and my y-intercept is 3. All right, from here you can work on the classwork and come to class tomorrow with any questions.